is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the Chair, and welcome to the witnesses. Thank you all for your time and your expertise. Just a little bit back about myself. The district I represent is Texas 22. It's a suburban Houston district. That is ground zero for pandemic flu outbreaks. I mean, we're about to be the third largest city in America. And I want to apologize to my colleagues from Illinois, but Chicago's going to be number 4 pretty quickly. We have the largest foreign tonnage port in America. That means traffic's coming from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, right there, the Port of Houston. We've got this huge transportation, land transportation infrastructure from Latin America. NAFTA, trucks, all the traffic coming across from Mexico, right down Highway 59, which goes right through my district, which is now I-69. And while it's true that my hometown's minor league baseball team is called the Skeeters, after mosquitoes, it's not true that the mosquito is the national bird of Texas. It's the mockingbird. But my point is, we have a lot of mosquitoes, we've got a lot of rodents, a lot of birds, all sorts of transmission paths, in addition to human beings. And I want to follow up on some of the comments that Dr. Burgess and my colleague Gene Green made about the outbreak we had, the H1N1 outbreak in 2009. That summer, you all know we had a big outbreak there across the country, but Houston was number 2, I think, of national outbreaks. And I mean, 11 schools shut down. I mean, parents were terrified what was happening with their kids. And as you know, with these pandemic outbreaks, there are basically 4 steps we have to take care of. First, we have to, diagnose it. The CDC has to come through and say, this is the virus, this is what it is, this is how we fix it. We have to make the vaccine. We have to get the vaccine manufactured out there, and we have to get it to the people and have to deliver it, get it to the local people to deliver it to the people who are infected by disease. And it was pretty clear that outbreak in 2009, CDC got behind pretty quickly with all the tests that are being required. These people are getting samples, taking all sent to you guys. I think you fixed that some, Dr. Friedman, by having some local regional centers set up just to address the sort of explosion of tests. I also know we had big problems with delivery. I mean, the Texas Children's Hospital had to set up basically a drive-through in a parking garage because so many people were wanting to come get those vaccines. So my question is, that big picture, and this one's for you, Dr. Friedman, and for you, Dr. Goodman, what keeps you up at night? I mean, what is your biggest concern? What can we fix here? What is your biggest concern with our country dealing with these pandemic flu outbreaks?
So of all of the naturally occurring infectious diseases, it is influenza that causes us to lose the most sleep because of its potential to kill. During the 1918 pandemic, more than 50 million people around the world died. And influenza can spread rapidly and unpredictably. One of the most predictable things about influenza is that it's unpredictable. So in order to do a better job of protecting Americans, we need to strengthen our global surveillance system so that we can detect new strains of influenza soon after they arise anywhere in the world. And we've worked very closely with governments around the world, as well as the World Health Organization, to strengthen laboratories. In fact, during the H1N1 pandemic, within literally days of the discovery of the virus, we had already produced a real-time PCR assay that we distributed ultimately to more than 100 countries around the world so we could track what was happening with it. But that virus was probably circulating for a couple of months before it was identified. So it emphasizes that if any part of the world doesn't have good monitoring systems, we could miss whether it's influenza or another health threat emerging and not be able to respond as quickly, because if we can stop it or mitigate it where it emerges, that's better for that part of the world and that's better for us as well.
We're working with some other institutions across America to do that. For example, the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston has this Bio4 laboratory. I went and toured that thing. That's space-age technology. You have this, these suits they dress you up in because they're dealing with some pretty serious diseases. They said exactly what you're saying, that our biggest problem is we can find something somewhere in the world here. If we get the virus, we can probably have it done in 24 to 48 hours, they say. We can figure out what the vaccine is going to be. Then obviously got to manufacture. But I encourage you to work with them and all those different labs out there because they're great assets for us. Dr. Goodman, what keeps you up at night, sir?
Well, I think we're all sharing those same concerns of a, new or different infectious agent where we don't have a great vaccine or great therapies that could occur either naturally, and that's the history of the world, or potentially, deliberately. So we, I agree totally with Dr. Frieden. We need to have strong surveillance, and things really have improved in that area too, and the molecular tools have improved. I think we also need the next piece, which is the ability to develop and produce medical countermeasures, vaccines, drugs, much more quickly than we currently can. Normal drug development and vaccine development is a multi-year process. So among the things we're working with through our enterprise, HHS, DOD, et cetera, is new technologies to have a much more rapid, flexible response so that we can get vaccines much more quickly, so that we can develop treatments. And also, there's been considerable progress, like we described in our testimony, in increasing our nation's capacity and being sure we have the domestic capacity in the industrial infrastructure to work with the government and respond to a public health crisis. So again, we're better off, but we've got to harness new science to have much faster responses and be able to face a new threat. And this isn't just flu, it protects us from terrorism too. So all of these, we're taking a multi-hazard approach where everything we do, whether it's surveillance or response, can be used because we can't predict what will emerge. So we want tools that will work for whatever will emerge.
Thank you, Dr. Cross. You can sleep well at night, ma'am. That's the end of my questions. I do have some questions for the record, sir, about adjuvanted vaccines that are being used in Europe, sort of developing new technologies for vaccines. But thank you very much.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman's time has expired, and